onto it, see if how the audio sounds. Yeah, so keep talking into the mic.
I hear you.
Good?
It's a delay. Nah, I'm not hearing his mic.
Who's?
Jackson.
Oh.
I think they're only coming through your mic.
Everything?
Actually, you speak into yours right quick. Actually, I hear myself.
What?
Yeah, it's coming off this camera mic more than anything.
Desktop audio video capture device. Video capture device. Not what we want. Off. Mic.
This one?
Which this
So, whatever you did last, it killed the audio.
Yeah, I think we got much audio.
Rob data center, steal a bunch of computers.
The most trackable thing you can take.
Now it sounds different.
It's like literally stealing a batch of GPS devices.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Into the mics.
Talking into the mics.
Check. It's like literally stealing a batch of GPS devices.
I should probably turn the sound off on this. Well, I don't know. All the articles said servers, but I think it was just ASIC mining machines. They don't have GPS on them.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that's all it was. And
They kind of made it sound like it was just straight up computers.
no, well,
Like
no.
servers.
Yeah, I think it's just because the people writing about it don't quite understand what is being stolen.
Well, in that case.
But
But still, they let 9 of them out.
we do this every week. Yeah, we know.
Yep. They were just chatting about it.
I was trying to convince him to take a shirt off and do a dance, get some more viewers, but
I don't dance.
we couldn't. Oh, I'm frozen on my screen.
Just-
We're gonna be live. So assume that you're live now, guys.
Yeah. And 9 of them got let out on bail, so it's just
I didn't read that.
Iceland is so nice.
It feels really weird to rehash conversations, so I try not to
That's a
talk
good point.
about our stories
All right,
before.
Good point, good call, good call.
Where's you guys' office at?
Sereno Valley.
Sereno Valley. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Up where Moby is.
Yep. We're kind of in that little digital
You guys write down all the stuff.
nest.
Yeah.
We sure did.
You go Rob or Robert?
Rob.
Rob.
Robert sounds like a frog. Robert. Robert. G-Dax basket. Boom. I love that everyone really thought XRP was about to be added to Coinbase. I got texts about that. I got texts from random people. They're like, it's going to get added, it's going to get added.
It's weird what the public seems to glom onto. It seems like the weirdest ones. Like, how did you even hear about this crap? It's Oh no, I just called XRP crap on air.
I mean, it's a fair call. Let's be honest. Does it have its place? Probably. And you know, whatever. I think everything deserves a chance for an experiment.
Yeah.
But, you
Well.
know. It's not the direction I want to go.
If you have questions, you can get my laptop.
Just go right to YouTube and.
I haven't seen it since you were looking for it. Oh, it's right there. You got it?
Fucking relax here. You got those?
You want me to go pour you a shot from your fridge? Saw some Captain Morgan in there.
Ooh.
I mean, it better be rum.
Yeah, I got plenty of Cap Mo. That kind of is how I roll. All right. So everyone's ready. Remember, Rob, we'll give you an intro. 6:32. Want to make sure that I can at least monitor it. There we go. It's funny, everyone's going to be watching. We're all going to be watching the live stream. Check, check, check. You guys can hear all right over there, right? I guess that's a yes. All right.
That's a yes,
You guys ready to start? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Captain Crypto Show. Tonight it's Tuesday, March, 8th, 2018. So that means it's another episode of our Captain's Council.
It'd be the March 6th.
March 6th, excuse
Close
me.
enough.
I'm already living in the future. That's the crypto life. Tonight, it's me, your host, Kylan Hurt, but you can call me Captain Crypto. And rounding out the crew, we have Jackson, who is a familiar face and a familiar voice.
Our matey.
And rounding out the crew tonight is also a new addition to the crew is Rob. How's it going, Rob?
Not bad, Captain. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, Rob, I guess since you're the new guy here, why don't you give the viewers and the listeners a little bit of a background about how you got interested in crypto and kind of what your path has been along and leading to where you are now.
Sure. So I got into crypto officially in 2016, but had been following it since about, I guess, 2010. Post-Navy, and was unable to afford to buy Bitcoin because, post-Navy, struggle. And also I didn't really understand the process of sending money to this random Canada place. But shortly after buying in 2016, I found Steemit in researching Bitcoin. And from there, got to learn a lot about the technology through that platform, which I brought back to Bitcoin because, the first year of Bitcoin, you're always just reading things, hoping it'll finally click. So that's about my background. So I've been on Steemit for about 2 years now and have participated in a bunch of their conferences and gatherings, their special events and charities. And it's been a really great time. And so that's kind of what's kept me in crypto is the community.
Right, and that's kind of how I met you as well, is since we are pushing our production into different content publishing platforms, you kind of had that skill set, especially with Steem as I guess you could say a currency for multiple platforms. At first I thought it was only Steemit, but as time has gone on, I've found that it's more than just Steemit. There's plenty of other, I guess, types of content publishing, including audio, video, even live video as well. But it's nice having you on. You're a great addition, and hopefully this is the first of many times.
Thanks a lot, Captain.
All right, so where should we start off? I think there's been quite a bit of news today. Obviously, there's Coinbase, and there are a few other things, but the first thing that comes to mind, and I know, Rob, you took a look at this one, was, I believe, FinCEN actually had some news today. So why don't you give us a little bit of an idea about what's going on there?
So it looks like FinCEN sent a letter to Congressman, Roy Wyden, kind of outlining in a little more detail about how they want to consider basically ICOs and, eventually even Bitcoin miners as like money transmitters, which would kind of put people in violation of the Bank Secrecy Act.
Yeah, there's a lot of regulations that come along with that, right?
There are a ton, like a lot of obligations with KYC, AML. So a lot of people already be kind of in violation as it comes to, or as it pertains to U.S. residents. So it's an interesting letter because there's so many different opinions from different organizations, CFTC, FinCEN. Everyone has their own definition almost. And even just before we started tonight, there was a federal judge in New York ruled that Bitcoin is actually a commodity. So, I mean, again, the story just goes on, but that's...
Yeah, the left hand is saying one thing while the right hand is saying another.
Right, exactly.
What do you think, Jackson, with this story, with FinCEN coming out, giving kind of their guidelines, and I guess even with some of the contradiction, do you think this is something is this providing clarity for the ecospace, or is this causing confusion?
Oh, this is definitely confusion. I mean, I think the IRS says that cryptocurrencies are money, the Treasury Department says it's a commodity, CFTC says it's a security. nobody can quite figure out what it is. It seems like everybody's trying to grab this new industry and have it be under their regulatory umbrella. I don't think that it makes sense in any way for it to be regulated under money transfer and regulated as security sales. Like, you can't be transferring money or exchanging money and selling a unregistered security. Those things don't seem to be compatible with each other. But what Rob said, are you sure that they were talking about Bitcoin miners being included in that? I thought that debate had been put to rest a while ago. If it hasn't been, then that's a huge deal.
No, agreed. It was actually from the Peter Valkenburg article, the Coin Center article, and he was referencing their previous kind of analysis about this situation and how ultimately it might lead to something like that. And even then, I think it was a hypothetical, but the idea being if suddenly everyone's a money transmitter, then a Bitcoin miner becomes a money transmitter, even though they're not facilitating the exchange as a third party. So he was saying, as a result, individuals could become de facto money transmitters and then be in violation of the law.
I see. Well,
slippery slope stuff.
I honestly think that all ICOs are garbage, so I don't really care about this news that much. But if it is going to lead to some slippery slope where we bring that debate back onto the floor of miners being money transmitters, I think that that is a big deal. But I thought that that debate had kind of been put to rest even before I joined Bitcoin, which is quite a while ago.
I don't think anything will come of it, to be honest. It's everyone, like you just read, everyone has such an opinion and everyone wants it to be under their purview. And eventually this is going to have to either go to a larger legislative body because you can't get agreement between the different agencies.
No.
Yeah, I think in general, we're in this paradigm where there's something new, and some of the people who are in the old guard, maybe it is something where they're just trying to get, what would you call it, jurisdiction over cryptocurrencies, but it's like they're trying to put this round peg in this square hole, and unfortunately sometimes that just really doesn't make sense. So I think this is, I think every so often we see some more quote-unquote guidelines or clarifications coming out of the government, but it seems like in general they're always trying to keep up, and like you said, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Right. And you got to imagine they're playing politics on the back end of all this as well. So that's just par for the course.
Yeah, that is par for the course. I guess one thing that we need to keep a close eye on is that if they try to make regulations too strict in the U.S., which I think the U.S. has to be one of the more strict regulatory areas for cryptocurrency, there's always that risk that the good companies and the wealth that would be provided by the industry is going to flee to other places. So it is one of these things where they have to, regulators should keep in the back of their mind, if they kind of scare off the golden, what is it?
The golden goose.
The golden goose, then yeah, you don't get those golden eggs. So I've already seen a lot of, like, especially with ICOs already, they're already incorporating in other places. And they tend not to incorporate in the United States because there's just so much, what would you call it?
Obstacle.
Yeah, it is
Red
like
tape.
Exactly. It is like an obstacle course.
But it is important to point out there is a blockchain caucus in the Congress, and there are people there are congressmen who have lauded the restrained efforts of the CFTC and other regulatory bodies in regards to crypto. So
yeah, I think Arizona is trying to open up to different types of crypto and blockchain businesses and trying to be open for business for them.
Right.
And then I wanted to say to Kylan's point that the more restrictive the U.S. gets, the more companies and more innovation will happen outside of U.S. borders. I just think that we had that already happen earlier in Bitcoin with the New York bit license.
Right.
And they pushed a whole bunch of Bitcoin companies outside of New York, and also were able to restrict the citizens of New York from using those businesses. And Rob knows more about that than any of us, right? Didn't you live there for a while?
Absolutely. I was there until just October of last year, and BitLicense made New York feel like a backwater. It really kind of still does seem that way out there, where there were so many concerns I had as a regular person. I was not sure if I was breaking someone's law just by having Bitcoin, which tickled me. So
just for viewers that maybe haven't been around quite as long, you want to just say what the BitLicense was real quick and maybe how it might relate to the situation going forward?
Sure. The BitLicense was instituted in 2015, and it is based out of New York. It was, I forgot the agency. What was the agency that Ben Lawsky headed the agency, who he's now with Ripple, headed the agency that actually accomplished getting the BitLicense pushed through. And what it does is create a number of obstacles for Bitcoin businesses to operate, or cryptocurrency businesses really, to operate in the New York City area, including fees for application that are non-refundable and kind of extravagant at 100 to 150K.
Oh my! Wow.
And then just further, with no guarantee that your application will be approved. So there's only been a handful, I think 4 or 5 approved businesses that operate in New York in far as crypto.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll tell you that that's to protect the consumers. That's what they always say. But if someone's kind of a startup, sometimes they're not going to have that much money, and so that's definitely something. It's, as they say, it's almost like cutting off the lower rungs of the ladder, to speak metaphorically. And it's funny that you guys are talking about, okay, we want to attract politicians, because here in San Diego, our local Bitcoin meetup last week, our speaker was actually, I think, is a guy that's running for Congress in San Diego called Michael Allman. I don't know if I should give him that much publicity, but and, it was one of these things where he's trying to brand himself as like the blockchain congressman guy, So it's one of these things where he sees this parade going, and again, metaphorically speaking, he jumps out in front of the parade, try to pretend like he's leading it. But really, when we asked him the critical questions, he fell real flat, in my opinion.
He really did.
It just unraveled quickly.
It was bad. They were like, oh, so why don't you tell us why you would use blockchain for the solution that you're using? Like, what's the advantage over a regular database? And he's like, well, why don't you tell me? I was like, you know what? Maybe that would work on some people, but for a lot of us, that will not work.
That makes me bullish on future candidates trying to woo the crypto community.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. That is the positive thing. They are kind of looking to become the blockchain senator, so to speak.
He's the buzzword surfer from California.
It was kind of actually like, I think my third article on Steemit, my third post on Steemit was actually about that. It was when the politicians start the bandwagon train and they all jump on. I was like wondering when that would happen. I thought it'd be 2020, but
yeah, it's not exactly a surprise, and I have a feeling there's going to be quite a bit more of this as time goes on.
Agreed.
All right, so there's another story that I didn't look too close into. I've been pretty busy this week at Edge. We're trying to get out another release to improve our mobile wallet app. But one of the stories that I think we've touched on before, at least I think we have, some of the listeners and viewers out there might actually recognize the story, was that I think about like a week or two ago, there was a Bitcoin mining heist in Iceland. And this sounds something where, like, I don't know, this might end up being the plot of, like, Ocean's 18, I think. I already can see George Clooney's over there, the wheels are spinning in his head. He's ran out of ideas.
He's hiding in an icicle.
With Brad Pitt. And so, essentially, it sounds like a couple of weeks ago, there was a data center up in Iceland. And of course, like the story says, there was a heist, and it's something like 600 computers, 600, I would assume, ASIC miners or graphic cards were stolen. So, I mean, I don't even know where to start with this one. Jackson, this is Iceland.
Yeah, I actually looked into this one pretty substantially because it sounds like it could be like the Ocean's 11 story.
Oh, yeah, tell us.
Totally.
Unfortunately, they also arrested a security guard with them, so it was just an inside job.
It's an inside. You knew that had to be.
Casually unplugged the computers, loaded them up on a truck, and got caught somehow. But
I think we could zhuzh that up a bit.
Yeah, a lot. They brought in like 10 or 11 people on charges or something like that. But I think, Rob, are you saying that most of them were let go already? I don't know.
The article I was reading on the way here said 9 of them were released on bail already.
So I know for a fact that they haven't found the machines yet. So maybe they suspect these people, but they don't actually have enough evidence to get a conviction or hold them or anything like that.
Aren't they looking for electricity spikes?
Yeah, yeah, that was the other thing. So this is the part where actually was interesting. Unfortunately, it wasn't the super cool heist that we wanted it to be, but it is kind of interesting, like what they're doing is like they have been monitoring all of the places around Iceland where these machines could possibly be plugged in to and see if there is that big spike of electricity coming from a different place and trying to find the machines. I think the fact that they told anybody this kind of defeats the entire purpose because the criminals can read the news too.
But how do you hide it in a country of 324,000 people?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
it's an island too.
You know, it doesn't matter. You can say it. It's
maybe
like
they don't even have the ability to do that. They're just like, we want them not to plug in here. We're going to catch them at the port when they try to ship these things out of Iceland.
That's what I'm thinking. It's going to be really hard to ship that many out and hide that much stuff. You go if travel internationally, you got X-ray machines looking all through stuff. They will be looking for it. There's probably a lot of people in Iceland who are angry, who maybe were making money off of this Bitcoin mining project, and now obviously there's been a big wrench thrown into it. But yeah, I mean, you have to wonder if there's only hundreds of thousands of people in Iceland. Like, everyone knows each other. Like, how you can't? Where are you gonna hide? You know, like, I don't know.
Like, you'd have to know everyone, so you could spread all the miners out, so that way the energy distribution would be even. And
yeah. So what do you think, Rob? Is this the future of Heist? I mean, is this next level, or is this kind of like counterproductive? Because now I'm thinking like, okay, like maybe you can sell the machines. Yeah, you could probably sell them for a lot, but they're probably not gonna like mine with them, right? Like,
I would imagine it's hard to move. Just like to get that to a fence.
Like, physically move or sell.
Both.
Yeah.
You know, because anyone buying a miner and seeing it come out of Iceland is going to be like,
yeah.
maybe I shouldn't buy this item, you know? And so from that side, it's going to be hard. But then getting it to the buyer is going to be impossible too. Like you said, X-rays, there's all of that stuff. You're not going international without them knowing.
From what I was reading about, though, it just kind of seems like Iceland's kind of a haven for Bitcoin mining. It just seems like it's going to be awesome for Bitcoin mining. I don't know how many people are there now. I think it is already quite a bit, but they have tons of clean natural energy that seems to be pretty cheap and abundant. So
this is just a bump. They're just brushing the dust off their shoulder. They probably got another 6 million machines just ready to go.
And you know, every like evolution of machinery that comes to the mining space is going to have this be a phenomenon over and over again. So yeah, I think it is the new Heist, the new way to kind of, rob someone physically.
Right. So back to what you were saying with the how would I say, with the inside job, which is exactly what I was thinking when I first read the article. I was like, okay, a lot of these places, their first measure of security is they just don't let people know that they have a mining operation there. But the second thing is like, okay, the operation is probably making a decent amount of money, but people are expensive, especially if you're going to have like 24/7 security. So realistically, you might have like 1 or 2 guys like guarding the premises. So, and they're probably not getting paid much. I was like, this is obviously the weakest link.
Yeah.
Like this is not a surprise to see that the security guard is the weak link, right?
Yeah, not at all.
Nope.
So I guess this is a lesson for those of you looking to get involved in Bitcoin mining. If you want to create a project, then be careful who you hire for security. Put in some cameras and
don't sit on your wallet.
Be careful if you're in Iceland, I guess.
How about this? Where did the monitoring go? Like, was it that, were they sophisticated, or did they not have any monitoring? Because like they should have some sort of monitoring that says all your miners just went offline. Why are you sitting on your butt and not figuring out why these things went offline?
Could have just been a lazy operation someone took advantage of when they saw the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. Okay, so I think that's enough on that story, as fun as it is. One of the big stories that came out this week, obviously this one was actually today, was, okay, it's like a roller coaster ride for some people, because Coinbase made a couple of announcements within the last few days. I think a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, they said they made a clarification that they are not planning on adding any specific currencies anytime soon. Do you guys know what demographic that was aimed at?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Definitely wasn't.
I could
Ripple.
stab in the wild, but yeah.
Every time there's any rumors of any sort of currency being added to Coinbase, you see all the Ripple holders just going crazy, absolutely crazy.
And the
For some
Shilberts-
reason, it's never the Monero people. I don't know. They seem to
it's the Shilberts
have their
and
heads
the,
on straight.
and the Ripple people.
Yeah, so, obviously, after the whole Bitcoin Cash being added, all the Ripple supporters, advocates were hoping that they'd be next to get added. But the announcement that came out was essentially that Coinbase, which for those of you who are not in the U.S., which is the largest, at least as I understand, the largest fiat to crypto exchange in the United States, they are adding an index fund. And this is actually pretty interesting, but it sounds like they are going to allow, it's going to be in stages, but at the beginning they are going to allow at least accredited investors the ability to invest in index funds that essentially hold or represent a proportion of cryptocurrency relative to their market capitalization. I think you guys both have read this. So Jackson, what are your initial thoughts? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is going to be counterproductive? Are you excited? Are you going to be buying into the Coinbase cryptocurrency index fund?
I think it's actually a pretty good idea for Coinbase. I think that in general, most of their buyers are pretty unsophisticated to the the cryptocurrency world, and a lot of them just want to get exposure to the industry without really knowing what the difference is. So if they can let Coinbase or the market determine which proportion of which coins go into their portfolio, I think that they'll be happy with that, and I think that'll be a really easy way for Coinbase to sell themselves. Me, I'm not interested in this at all. One, I'm kind of a Bitcoin maximalist. I don't care about the other two coins. But two, I would want to hold them myself and not pay somebody else fees and have the risk of possibly that wallet getting hacked with all the money in it. But it is interesting from the fact that, like I said, it's good for Coinbase. It'll be easy sell for them. And then two, just that in the crypto world, to have some sort of like a way for the old style investors to get into this,
right,
there needs to be some sort of way to have custody of these assets. And I feel like this is a great test case for that. And I think Coinbase is uniquely positioned to be a leader in that role. So those are the things that I took away from it.
Yeah, what do you think, Rob? I mean, I know people give Coinbase a lot of shit,
Flack.
so to speak, a
Yeah.
lot of flack. Thank you.
Tons.
But
Well deserved.
Push comes to shove, they make things pretty usable. Their apps are pretty usable. They're pretty simple, especially when you compare them to other exchanges. So do you think are they making the right moves? I mean, this is slowly kind of becoming their niche. They're the easy onboarding on-ramp between fiat to crypto. Do you think this is something where they could actually reach a large portion of the public? I know they're looking to ramp up and I think take more than just accredited investors in whatever their next phase is going to be.
In due time, yeah. I do think they're well positioned. I agree with everything you said. I think they're well positioned to do this because they're kind of the first layer gatekeeper into crypto for retail investors who, like you said, don't know much about the technology itself, but do want to invest in it in some way. And these are big money people who want to just put the money there and have someone else take care of it. And I understand that sentiment for some of those investors. I'm the same like you. I'd rather do it myself. That's the whole point. But, you know, it takes all types. And I think Coinbase is really well positioned to facilitate that for the next wave of retail investors. They also have a pretty good spread of what they're doing. So I think the fund is 67% Bitcoin, and then Ethereum next.
That doesn't sound proportional though, does it? Right?
Well, I think it's about right. It depends. Ethereum has been kind of
67%
following
Bitcoin?
Yeah, Ethereum's been following.
Yeah,
to
like, so the
Bitcoin
fund-
lately.
They're saying market cap of the coins that they offer then maybe.
Right. So like in the
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So of their fund, they're going to invest 67% in Bitcoin, X dollars into or X amount into Bcash, and so on and so forth.
They had Bcash.
Yeah, they do. That's why I was like, man, all right, I'm glad they're doing this because it's important that retail investors get a way in. If all those price people really care about the price going up, though, then you want more participation. And plus, once you red pill them, then you take them over.
Yeah, I'm curious if you guys think in general that is usability a major issue in cryptocurrency, because here, not here, at Edge where I work, one of the main things that we're working on is actually trying to make things more usable, and that does tick off some of the more technical people who don't want things simple and easy. They want full control, but by making something simple and easy, you kind of give people options so that you can reach both demographics. I'm curious, when you're using applications or exchanges, Jackson, do you find that they are pretty usable? I mean, to be fair, you are relatively technical compared to the average person, but what is your experience usually like?
Man, I kind of have mixed opinions on that. Well, one, I think that no matter what, the main thing is that we're relying on people like you and Paul and all of Edge. That has to make it easier to the point where it's as easy as sending an email, swiping across your finger, using Venmo, something like that. Maybe even easier than Venmo. And all this complexity in the end has to be hidden. But we will still have our power users. Like, there are still people that could use Chrome but choose to use Tor because they need to for some specific reason. And it's just not something worth getting mad about. That just sounds silly.
I mean, it's a big free market. So I think, like what Dash's thing back in the day or back last year or whatever, so easy grandma can use it was their goal with the evolution thing. I don't know if that ever actually rolled out.
Wait, who was that again? So easy.
Dash did that?
Dash? Yeah, that was their goal. So easy grandma can use it, and they were supposed to achieve
Hey, Grandma,
that.
there's these master nodes, and actually they have the
It's super easy.
They create a quorum.
I just need 1,000 Dash, Grandma. But their whole thing was that a rollout called Evolution, which was supposed to drop last summer, I didn't follow up because it didn't happen. I didn't care anymore. Was supposed to make it so that it wouldn't be addresses anymore, long strings. It would actually just be usernames, account names, those kind of things that people are used to on a sharded system. I believe they were planning on top of another layer.
Yeah.
It
It's not easy, is it, Kylie?
No, it's not easy at all. Are you talking about creating an application?
To make it
Oh man, there's all sorts of stuff that people don't see.
Really
There's
hard
like
to make it
multiple layers in between, and I've been coding for about 6 years now, and it's still, I mean, every day you're really pushing, but it's fun though. It's a challenge. So if you're into challenges, there's plenty of that in this space. So I'm curious. I have a story here about the Marshall, the U.S. Marshals doing an auction. I think that's the one for 25 million. I don't know the full story on that. I think one of you guys does though.
Yeah, I kind of did the deep dive onto that one. So looking into it, they have a new one coming up. It's on March 19th. So March 19th, they're auctioning off 2,170 Bitcoins. This is going to be the third such auction the U.S. Marshals have done. The first one was kind of the legendary one. Tim Draper ended up buying most of the coins from that one. And then everybody laughed at him as the price of Bitcoin went down for the next 2 years, but he is laughing now. He was just on CNBC this morning wearing a Bitcoin tie with the biggest freaking smile on his face, just yucking it up, telling everybody Bitcoin is the complete future. He's like the biggest bull in this entire industry.
Wait, is he's the one that bought the Silk Road?
Yeah, that was the first auction, and he bought most of the coins, yeah.
So, okay,
I think some of the coins are actually, some of the coins in this auction are from the coins that the Feds stole, the agents,
Yeah,
right?
that's correct.
Oh my,
So-
from the actual Silk Road case.
Yes.
So this-
Yeah.
It's so meta.
Let me finish
Yeah,
the
that's-
timeline real quick.
go ahead,
There was
go ahead.
one more auction that happened mid-2016. That one kind of went quietly. I think this one will go quietly too. But as Robert just said, yes, some of these coins are from the original case where one of the dirty agents that initially busted the Silk Road
Karl Mark Force III.
Right.
Yeah, one of those guys.
tried to make off
I
with
almost
some of
know
the
him by
coins.
name. Is that strange?
No.
But
a
then
little.
just one more cool, interesting thing. On the U.S. Marshals website, you can pop on and see where they confiscated all these coins for. They have like the rule or the laws that were broken, stuff like that.
You wanna read off a couple of them?
Yeah. So let's see. United States versus Carl James Pugh, Northern District of Ohio case. And then there's a ton that just say administrative forfeiture, anything from like 2 Bitcoins up to 125 Bitcoins. Sean Bridge, yeah. None of these have like a ton of information, but they have enough information you could look up and figure out exactly like what the deal was. But just I think the main point is that there's about like 20, 30 different cases here, and they're all aggregated together. It's not like one big one like the
Right.
Silk Road one was.
That Silk Road, even in retrospect, you think about how much those Bitcoins worth. I think it was 180 something million at the time. I don't even know what they'd be worth now. That's just craziness. I'm curious what you guys think about this, because I've thought about this in my head. If they were going to auction that stuff, would I be willing to buy it? Because you're buying it at a crazy discount. Is there an ethical issue with actually buying, how would I say this, participating in this auction for these, what some would call stolen crypto funds?
I mean, for me, I would have to be a very, very wealthy man to want to bother with all the registration required to participate in the auction.
I think that the original U.S. Marshals auction, that one was kind of more special because people were still a little bit up in the air about like whether or not Bitcoin would be outlawed or not.
Right.
So it was a huge deal that they were to sell it. And then also there is still a concern that at some point some Bitcoin might get blacklisted.
Yeah.
And if you have Bitcoin that is from the U.S. Marshal Service, then there's zero chance of you ever having any tainted blacklisted coins in that batch.
It's a really good point.
Yeah, so those are the kind of cool ones, and I don't think that they're necessarily more expensive.
No. I mean, they're cheaper. I think.
Cheaper.
Yeah, he
yeah,
was
I
saying it was
don't-
unethical to buy it so cheap.
why do you think it'll be cheap?
I was wondering.
Well, because that's how it was with the Silk Road. It was they got them cheaper. Otherwise, why would you do the auction? You would just buy them through an exchange.
I thought it was more of the points that I just listed off, that they were worried about having coins that were tainted in some way.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That's why demand is lower for the ones that are offered in the auction.
No, I think that the ones that are offered in the auction are the cleanest because they are sold by the U.S. Marshals. They are the ones that have been laundered by the U.S. Marshals.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
the dirtiest coins are the cleanest. Yep, sounds like the government.
yeah, up is down and down is up. Yeah, so for those of you who are watching live, we are taking some questions. So if you want to ask some questions, go ahead. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Obviously, we cannot get to all of them, and don't ask us to. I would politely ask, don't ask us to do all the analysis for you. Some people like to just ask, oh, what do you think of this coin? What about that coin? We're not here to spitball our analysis of every coin. Yeah, so you'll have to do some of your own research. Believe it or not, that's how this space works. So
Crazy.
if you guys don't mind me prying a little bit, I think I know how Jackson's going to answer on this, but you don't have to answer, Rob, if you don't want. But when it comes to your guys' portfolios, if you have a portfolio of cryptocurrency, have you guys had any kind of changes, anything moving around lately, anything catching your eye lately?
I thought I would be really coming into this year hitting it heavy, but I've kind of just more reverted back to my Bitcoin maximalism. It was my natural state. So
You're outnumbered.
yeah, sorry. I still hold some other. I hold some things that to rain poop down on others, in the future on shitcoins. But yeah, I'm mostly
More of a maximalist. Well, I guess at least you guys have those forks giving you a little bit of excitement. Jackson, what I mean,
Well, I did veer out into Steam, and I played around.
That's right, that's right.
I did trade a little bit of XRP and Litecoin. I've explored the technologies because I came to it as a complete amateur, non-coder,
Right.
And I've been learning since then because it's just fascinating. So I have played around with coins. I held and still hold a little Doge for funsies.
A little Doge.
Doge.
A little Doge. We have some Doge fans at the Edge office, believe it or not. Yeah.
I mean, it's a fun community.
What about you, Jackson? What do your holdings look like? You don't have to give us, absolute numbers, but relative numbers, or
Yeah.
just what's.
I'm as predictable and boring as you think. I'm 100% in one certain coin.
Yeah,
Nice.
all right. I think for me, I've started
Ripple.
to branch out. Yeah, plenty. He's a Ripple maximalist. Yes.
Doge.
Yes. So for those of you who've been following the feed, excuse me, not just the live feed, but like the podcast feed, we've started adding a little bit more analytical episodes, if that makes sense. So we added one called Sink or Sail, where we do a more technological, analytical. Analytical analysis, that's redundant, but we do an analysis of different coins and the tech. So one we did recently was EOS, and it caught my eye, and I haven't invested in it yet. They're doing some sort of, I don't want to call it an airdrop, but they're launching the actual blockchain in June, and you get coins on that blockchain if you own the EOS ICO tokens, which to me is a little bit convoluted. But when we looked through the project, it did look like something that might have some legs. So there is something where I am considering buying some EOS, which for the most part my portfolio hasn't changed too much during the last few months, but I think that would make sense because when everything's down, like I don't really want to be moving things around.
Exactly.
I think that makes sense. Trying to think what other ones. I
I
think
like
that's-
EOS. I think it's an interesting project, especially coming from that ecosystem of Steemit or the Steem blockchain and
Right.
everything else. The Dan Larimer knows how to build out what he wants to build out. So I do look forward to seeing what EOS does, because I kind of think it's going to be like Ethereum times 5.
Right. I think it's, I'm trying to think of the best way. It's like, let's say Ethereum's kind of like coding websites, and then maybe, some people are not going to like this analogy. And then like EOS is kind of like WordPress, you know what I mean? Like you already have accounts. It's kind of like this, like almost like a framework or something where you kind of have these like, training wheels, for lack of a better term, but in return, as a compromise, you get usability. So
And
I will,
super fast blockchain.
yeah, that's another cool thing.
Steem
Yeah.
blockchain is super fast.
Yeah. So I did notice with the Dan Larimer projects, there is a little bit of a usability issue, but a lot of them are old. Like BitShares is a few years old. Steemit's already, I think, at least a couple years old, something
It's
like
two
that.
as of launch in July.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with usability, that being a big thing. So I think they are focusing on that, kind of learning from their previous mistakes.
And you also have to get on board with DPoS, and that's a deal breaker for a lot of people.
Yeah, especially if you guys are maximalists. Watch out over here.
But I like it for the social network and the crypto community on Steemit. So for me, it's okay, because if it was on the Bitcoin blockchain as a maximalist, that'd make me happy. But as a user, it'd be really slow right now, and it'd be taking resources away from what's important. I think social networks are important, but what Bitcoin's doing is a lot bigger than just a social network.
Right. Yeah.
So-
Another thing you've heard me shill about Monero enough times on this podcast. But one thing I will say is that, and I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast before, but there's this Monero V chain coming out. So there's a fork of Monero that is occurring, I think, later this month. And it has caused issues because apparently the way that ring signatures work with Monero with the privacy is something like after the fork, if you split your funds, if you split your funds and then you use them on the Monero V chain, then that actually compromises a little bit of the privacy on the regular Monero chain. So this is something where I've been I've advocated pretty strongly for Monero in the past, but there are things popping up that are issues. And one of the things they're talking about is increasing the ring signature size. But and I know it is getting really technical, but one of the consequences of that is that it can increase the transaction fees. And right now, I don't know if you guys know, but Monero, I think, might have the largest transaction fees out of any cryptocurrency right now. It's just a larger blockchain because of the privacy.
Yeah, I don't look specifically, but what I know about Monero does seem like that could be true, especially with Bitcoin's fees dropping so low lately. I had a question for you, though. What do you plan on doing, knowing the risks you're a Monero holder?
I'm not touching this Monero V stuff. Everything about the project just smells of garbage, to put it lightly. And, we've tried to ask questions on the Monero V subreddit, and it's just either they're censoring stuff or they're ignoring stuff or downvoting stuff. There doesn't seem to be much integrity or credibility to the Monero V team. And if you go on the Monero subreddit, there's a pretty clear consensus on that. But they are attracting people by airdropping, right? So people are going to want to use it. And the conspiracy theorist to me thinks that, well, maybe this is, a plan by the government, right? Maybe they are trying to purposely create some sort of fork that can compromise privacy. Obviously, that's a little bit on the conspiratorial side.
Is it?
Is there?
They literally have like 8 departments designed to do like all of that kind of stuff outside of crypto.
Yeah.
So
is there enough of a payoff in Monero if they were able to take down some people in Monero? Is there enough of a payoff there?
I don't think so.
Who knows? I mean, it's the government. They do things for all sorts of weird reasons, right?
Yeah. If you de-anonymize Monero, like how long are you able to track stuff for? Like as soon as it starts mixing again, just the economy moving around, won't they lose track of it pretty quickly?
Yeah, no. I mean, after the fork, like I said, they're thinking of increasing ring signature sizes anyways. So it's interesting because we kind of split hairs. Like, okay, if you're using, the way I see it, if you're using a privacy coin now, usually the privacy only lasts so long. It's eventually, right, the computers will get good enough. So it's more like how much time into the future are you buying yourself? And with something like Monero, I think, well, I don't know how much you're buying yourself, but ultimately you have long enough that if you're not the low-hanging fruit, then you're probably going to be fine. But that's also, if you're a big enough target, then you'll want as much time as you can get, right? That's the nature of it.
So I don't even know if I might be speaking uneducatedly here, but if you believe that all this privacy will eventually be broken, like Bitcoin relies on the same cryptography that Monero does to a degree, and we all plan that the fact that, yes, maybe like the Bitcoin algorithms could eventually be broken, but by that time we should have a upgrade in place and ready to go.
That's exactly
ahead of time.
how I feel.
Right.
You don't think Monero could stay ahead like that?
No, I think the question is whether old transactions will be able to be protected. The new transaction, not always, there's no such thing as always, but I think obviously a project like Monero that's really putting an emphasis and the priorities on privacy will tend to be a few steps ahead. But yeah, when you have the transactions that were made, let's say 10 years ago, when the privacy features at the time were not as good, then I think that's the issue.
Okay, I see what you're saying then.
But part of the thing is that, if you do something really bad, 10 years ago, if there's enough time, people start to not really care about the bad things you've done. They look back like, oh yeah, oh shucks, those boys are all up to no good, weren't they?
What's the name for that? The statute of limitations? Or
Yeah,
something like that?
statute of
So you-
limitations.
I was going to say
Yeah.
With
the
Monero,
housing
just
crash
has
of
to stay
2008.
ahead of the statute of limitations, and then they're fine.
Yeah. Okay. So you actually touched on another topic that I think we can take on, since you guys well, we have 3 Bitcoin advocates here. I am a Bitcoin advocate as much as I give you guys a little shit.
2.5.
2.5. There you go. Woo. But
take it.
so what do you think of the transaction fees going down? Because there's obviously a lot of argument over whether there was a lot of spam before, if that's what was causing the higher transaction fees, or if it was just the demand, because now they're really low. But a lot of people's arguments are that, okay, well, that's probably because the volume is lower. So I'm just curious your thoughts. I think I got Tay and Brett's thoughts last week, but I'm curious what you guys thought.
You know, go first. So I actually kind of did initially have the reaction that I was kind of sad that I knew, or I thought that probably we are having people spamming the Bitcoin blockchain on purpose to drive up fees to influence the scaling debate. And I thought that was
pretty clear,
pretty likely to be true.
Yeah.
But I was kind of sad to see how much it fell off. I was hoping that when we actually got rid of all that spam, we were able to see what we actually had been able to build up to a transaction value. But I was kind of hoping it would be higher. And I was a little bit sad that we were lower than I thought. But after some people actually looked into it a little bit harder than I did, it seems that the actual number of outputs moving seems to be actually still rising. It seems that optimizations that people have been putting in place actually have been kicking in.
Right.
And
Batching,
batching
SegWit.
and putting SegWit in. Yeah, specifically batching for this, I believe, means that we actually are still on an upward trajectory.
We're on track.
Yeah. So I think that still, to some degree, I wish there was more, and I want there to be transactions and transaction fees going up, but I don't think it's quite as bad as you might think that we're back down to 0.
Right. What do you think, Rob?
I'm very long term, so it doesn't really affect me as much. I understand that it's a volatile nature. It's going to go up and down with spam and with these political attacks because there's so many vectors to try, and I hope all of them get tried. I was more disappointed in kind of the vitriol I saw come out of people who I had previously kind of been friends with online or been following on Steemit or following on Twitter, suddenly come out, being very vulgar against developers on either side. And it's just like, wow, you're missing the point. Really far. You're more concerned about coffee than you are about,
obsession
the
with
future.
coffee.
Yeah, it's like fine. It's like, it was really, that was for me what I took away from the whole experience. And obviously these guys are scam artists who are just spamming the network. I don't even give them the time of day or any of my attention. But it was more of those people, like those friends, previous associates, that I was just really surprised to see them saying like, F the BTC developer, the core developers. I'm like, you never speak like this, and now you're just frothed up and you're a raging mob now.
It is crazy how possessive people have gotten over Bitcoin. Everyone feels like it's partially theirs. They were there early. It's part of this experience they went through. That it's a game changer. And I guess I'm not going to say seeing your baby grow up, but seeing it change, I can see that causing some sort of discomfort.
Definitely. Cognitive dissonance too, But the idea below it or behind it is that you're really being controlled. Your emotions and your whole psychological behavior is being controlled when you get that angry about Bcash Bitcoin or Lcash Litecoin, any of that stuff. It's just, wow.
Yeah.
Forest for the trees, people.
I think in general I do agree with you, but at the same time, it's good that people get pissed off and angry about this. It means they care.
I agree.
I think that they are technically misguided, depending on which side you think I'm talking about.
The vitriol, though, it's a little too... people who never even curse are coming out, F the core. It's like...
But what did they think is being taken away? A lot of people think that this is going to change the world and it's going to make a new economy, new system. And then if they feel like that is being taken away by people that are making the wrong decision, they should be mad. In my opinion, I'm not mad because I think that we're going the correct direction. But if you don't understand that or if you don't believe that, then I think the correct response is to be mad. If Bitcoin started going in a direction that I didn't believe, I would be screaming mad too.
Yeah, but we should be screaming at the regulatory bodies, not at the developers of any project, really, unless it's a pure scam. Whether or not you buy into a project or hold their token, it's good to... I think it in that same idea of rising tide lifts all boats, well, that's much interest. It keeps drumming up more interest, and we'll get more people into the space, more people working to be developers, and and contribute.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on this, but I think that probably the best part of it is that they did fork off. They did have the ability to go try and make their own network.
Yep.
And if they were the correct idea, or if they still are the correct idea, then theirs will be the one that ultimately becomes
Right.
adopted. So we have a good system in place. It's working.
I agree.
All right, so we are going to try something a little bit new here since we are live. We're trying to engage with the audience, trying to get to know you guys, figure out what sort of topics you guys want to know about. So there are a few questions that I'm seeing here on Facebook. I'm checking some of the other social media sites as well. We'll start off with, I don't know if it's Zarly or Charlie. I know I've seen you actually go live yourself on Facebook. He says, what do you think about setting up minor companies, so like mining companies, overseas where costs are less? Have you guys looked into mining?
Well, sure. Absolutely.
And what do you think? United States, overseas? What if you were setting up a mining project, where do you think you would set it up?
Given the relative obstacles, depending on how far I wanted to go with the project, as far as my global relocation, it would depend on that. But staying in America, I mean, you can go to like upstate New York, Buffalo area for what, 3 cents a kilowatt hour, 2 cents a kilowatt hour?
Yeah.
Rochester even?
I'm from Washington. We have the cheapest or second cheapest energy in the entire United States. And I know
Sweet.
a couple of people that have jumped in the deep end and started a mining farm up there and kind of consulted on a couple of them for a little bit. And it doesn't matter what country you're in. Like, you need three things. You need safety for your miner, you need cheap electricity, and you need to be like close enough to maintain it. I don't really think it matters too much where you are other than that. Just those are the three things you need wherever you are. If you have those things, you're good to go.
Prices per kilowatt hour could
Right,
really,
yeah, that's
like-
one of the things,
Oh,
the
yeah.
price of electricity.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you have cheaper electricity and you can guarantee that it's safe and you can guarantee that you can maintain it, then anywhere in the world is fine.
So Wyoming it is.
Yeah, hey. I was actually pretty surprised. I've noticed over the last few months, or maybe I just only started noticing or paying attention now, but especially when I go to the conferences. I was in Dallas a couple weeks ago, and I was surprised at how many people were actually getting involved with mining projects. They were either starting them, and we're talking the United States, some in Canada, but plenty in the United States. So some of them, like in West Virginia, obviously a lot in Eastern Washington. That I believe they have the lowest prices in the country. And if there's one thing that I took away, it's that actually the mining industry, Bitcoin cryptocurrency mining in the United States is actually alive and well. I actually have some investments.
Infantile.
Yeah, I actually have some investments in one that it's incorporated in Las Vegas, and their mining projects are their facilities rather are kind of all over the United States. So I've been pretty impressed with how resilient how would I say it? How resilient the United States mining industry has been, because when I've looked into it as an individual miner, I've said, and granted, I live in San Diego, it's California, you don't have cheap energy prices, but I looked at it and said, there's just no way. I'd love to get involved, but there really is just no way. But other people have been more creative, and even some of the places where electricity is expensive, they're finding ways to get agreements with the utilities so that since they're getting so much so much power, they are getting discounted rates, and they are finding ways to be competitive with some of the other cheaper countries that you might know about, like China, Russia, and I guess like Canada is throwing their hat in there now.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think that's one of the craziest and best network effects that Bitcoin/cryptocurrencies have going for them. If they can get onto the scale of like municipal power grids and like helping them to capitalize themselves and helping them to pay off the money that the taxpayers put in quicker, then that's just something that is going to give it a lot of credence and a lot more confidence going forward. But that bootstrapping that confidence for the municipalities to give you that deal and build up infrastructure to support your operation, if they think that this crypto thing is some insane thing that's going to blow up tomorrow, and then they're going to have built up this infrastructure and have nobody to pay for it. So once that hurdle gets jumped, I feel like that's
That
going to be a
mental
pretty big thing.
barrier.
Yep.
Yeah, in Canada, when I actually looked at this, is funny because I really wanted to get involved with mining.
They're descending on Quebec, aren't they?
Yeah, I have a coworker acquaintance of mine who's from Ukraine, and there's a point where I was like, you know what, we should just go over to Ukraine or Russia. Like I think it's either Leningrad or Stalingrad. Excuse me. I think it's they have different names now, don't they?
Yep.
Like St. Petersburg.
Yeah, I think you went back to World War II names. Like.
I'm in the Soviet era, but. They're making it very attractive for people to do cryptocurrency mining there. So I was getting ready to go, and then I found this other even project that's in the United States. But yeah, even how to say it, Canada's staying competitive. When I looked at their prices were low, but then they add on all these like crazy government fees, and you know you have taxes and whatnot there. But from what I've heard, it sounds like Canada is really starting to pick up as well. There are some prominent figures who are starting projects up there, because I guess stuff with like electricity, they end up with a surplus, and the municipalities are just happy to bring in more money and bring in more tax revenue. Okay, so this
Super
is
exciting.
I got another question. This one, it sounds like it's a little bit in jest, from Matt Yancey, an old schoolmate of mine. It says, Kyle, when is everyone going to stop buying up all the good video cards so I can make a gaming rig for a decent price?
Seriously.
Yeah, I think God, who was it? I saw it on Twitter. Someone was posting. I think it was maybe Krista Rose, and it just showed this video graphics card part of Fry's Electronics, and it's just empty.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And you know what? He's like, you know, this is a buy sign. This is a buy signal.
Seriously though.
Yeah,
I mean those T180s, man.
Yeah,
Dude, that's the exact same argument. Like the graphics card processors don't want to scale up because they're afraid that once they do, this crypto thing is going to disappear out from under them.
I think that's really smart of
all
them.
these cards that they can't sell for what they made them for. So it's interesting. And
If there was anything other than crypto, I would probably be banging drums on it too. It's really hard for me to get upset. I'm a lifelong gamer, but it's just hard for me to get mad because it's
Isn't
like
that such a weird coincidence? Like, gamers are probably the ones that should be the most interested in crypto, but they are pissed at crypto people because they can't play their games. It's hilarious.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be like some nerds or something, but some of the gamers maybe moved on. You know,
I'm hoping that new MMO coming out, Parsec Frontiers. I'm hoping that actually brings more of the kind of gamer community into blockchain, into crypto in general.
I think it already has. I noticed, obviously not that specific game, but in the past I've noticed people, because there's a subreddit, it's like build a PC, just because I like computers. Obviously I'm a coder, and there's all the times they're talking about selling their cars. Like, you know what? Normally I wouldn't sell my car, but these crypto enthusiasts, man, they're willing to pay so much.
Yeah.
So all these guys are who usually game a lot are kind of putting it by the wayside and making a little bit of money. So
I love that.
We're spreading the wealth, right? Look at it that way.
I was going to buy a couple last summer and didn't get around to it because life got in the way, and just, I was like, I'll do it later. They're going to be around. And then I think since then it's like been a drought, and I just don't have the patience to like fish for one. So I'm just like, all right, I'll just wait.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another question here. This one looks like it's from Jake, and he was asking what you guys thought about, and I don't know if you guys read this, at least I hope I read the article or the headline right, but that Coinbase is facing a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
Actually,
two.
If I'm not, okay, two. Well, let's start off with one of them.
One of them is for the
Bitcoin
possible
Cash.
inside trader on Bitcoin Cash. What's the second one for?
The second one is for, all right, so it's kind of a weird concept, so I might not explain it perfectly, but previously you could send people money, or rather Bitcoin, through Coinbase, and if they didn't have an account at Coinbase, they would receive an email, and then they could sign up and redeem what you sent them. A lot of people never did that. They never actually signed up. So there was money just kind of left there. Coinbase took that money and kept it. And so the class action lawsuit is saying this is like pretty much akin to the post office keeping a birthday card full of money because no one picked it up. Instead of returning to sender or something. It should go back to the return to sender, or it should go to like the lost property of California or whatever.
It reminds me of like gift cards that are left with a balance on them. Isn't there a law about that? I don't remember what it is, but I think that there's something that has to be done with them. I don't know if the company gets it after a certain time period, or
I
if they
doubt
have
anyone's
to
gonna
donate it.
Yeah, I mean, like
It kind of sounds like that to me, but
yeah.
it
So if
just
I sent you
happens that
money,
money also gained a ton of value while they were
Exactly.
sitting there. Then
I guess if
So-
someone's the custodian of that money, then they have the ability to do that, right?
well, no, they don't. That's why they're being sued.
No, I mean the technological ability
Oh,
to
yeah.
do it, right?
Well, and it's like, well, the thing was, people went back later because $10 of Bitcoin in late 2015 compared to now, that's like 100.
Like if we're still down, they wouldn't care. Yeah.
So they went back and they tried to use the link, and the link was dead. And Coinbase support did not help them, did not do anything for them.
Yeah, that's insane.
They never
So
help
that's
anyone.
illegal.
They should definitely be trying to help them.
Because they should have
no way
sent
it
that
could
money.
have been that long yet. Like,
Exactly.
4
So
or
what are they
5
doing with
years
the money,
max,
and why aren't
yeah.
they doing what the law says you should do with that money? And so
I'm surprised that even goes to a court. I figure Coinbase would just be like, "Yep, we definitely have to do that, or we're going to get sued." That's weird to me.
Right?
I think that there must be something we don't understand, because Coinbase, if they didn't think they had a leg to stand on, they wouldn't be.
Well,
doing
think
that.
about how
But I don't-
Coinbase between
yeah.
then and now, it's been a roller coaster, and they're a behemoth, and it's been insane. So overlooking something like this is actually completely reasonable in my mind, because
Maybe.
it's just
You'd
an
think
email
that
of
they
$10.
just come out instantly and say, we are going to give the money back. We're going to do everything we can to give it to them, because it seems like it would be just terrible publicity.
But maybe they don't have the
feel
support.
like they've gotten that's,
Customer support,
But this seems like a press announcement at this point. If you're getting sued,
I
you
keep
just
seeing
make a
people
press
not getting
announcement, huh?
tickets responded to all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe
I don't know. That one's a little bit weird to me, but
totally weird.
yeah.
Okay,
What
so-
about the Bitcoin Cash one, Kylan?
Yeah,
do
that's
you
what I was
think?
about to
'Cause
say.
While it happened, everybody was swearing up and down, this isn't illegal because these aren't securities. They are currencies, and there's no inside trader laws of currencies. So that's what I was hearing when it was happening. Is that not true?
Yeah, so for me, I'm more of like a Wild West kind of guy. So it's more like, okay, these guys, they obviously know when they're going to implement something. So like, why? Yeah, okay. Insider trading is kind of just like this. It's this term that I don't really like, because okay, yeah, the people who are on the inside should know more, and they should be, in my opinion, they should be allowed to know more. It does seem like there was some I'm not going to say insider trading. It does seem like there were people who knew before the BCH announcement that it was going to be integrated. The price doubled in the span of like a few hours from what I could tell. Personally, I think there's maybe an ethical question about whether, okay, if they're the custodians of these things, do they have a duty to their not their investors, but I guess their users. I think maybe that's more the question. Personally, I work for a wallet application company, and my imagination gets the best of me. Sometimes I'm like, well, if we were big enough and we were going to integrate something, like, would I tell my friends? Like, who would I tell? Who would I not tell? Would it just be me? So these are things where, I don't really want to crack down on that. I just want to keep that door open.
Well, I mean,
As a quick aside, real quick, you know how I knew that Coinbase wasn't going to add Ripple? Because
How?
it didn't pump before the announcement. Inside buyers weren't there because it wasn't actually.
there.
There's probably some truth to that. It'll be interesting.
Honestly, at this point, they're so big now. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see the next one that they add, if it shows the same ramp up, right?
ETC.
ETC.
Just
Yeah,
to,
maybe.
just to screw everyone's head up.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if they're going to take their time for now to add the next one, just kind of still let things cool off.
That's what I think.
A lawsuit like this, do these move pretty quickly, or is this something where it'll still be dragging out like 3 years from now?
I don't know if it's like the oil companies, but I think the longer it goes, the worse the press gets.
Right.
And with the velocity of the crypto environment and the economy, bad press over a sustained period of time could really be negative for their year. But I don't know. They're like a speeding train at this point. I don't know if anything can really stop them outside of like super big lawsuits and crime and arrests.
Yeah. And yeah, justice is swift sword, right? So I think if they have incentive to move quickly, then they will. But I think we've covered enough topics for tonight. So for those of you who are out there watching us live, go ahead and feel free to subscribe or rate us, review us. If there's something that you did like about what we did, go ahead and let us know and give us a positive review if you don't mind. And if you didn't enjoy it, then
Post on my Twitter.
hold off on the review and just let me know what you didn't like, so we'll work on improving it. So until next time, guys, this is your captain and your crew wishing you fair winds and following seas. Set sail.